Wait, remember Kaput Zösky? While I know a handful of people will say yes, I wouldn't find it surprising how many people would say no. Kaput Zösky is one of those weird faint memories of seeing it that one time randomly but not really sure if you did, but you swear something about it tickles the nostalgia nerve in your brain type of shows. It had a distinct look, a weird sounding name, and for me in the US, would air on Nickelodeon's sister channel, Nicktoons, or the Nicktoons Network. I think you could boil down a lot of shows that were on the Nicktoons Network this way in general, but I digress. Kaput Zösky, while never making too much of a major impact as a cartoon, being placed in a sea of other cartoons that for the most part befell similar obscurity, does have interesting stories surrounding it both before it was even a cartoon as well as after. Today we are going to spend some time taking a look at what Kaput Zösky was all about, why it basically came and went, take a stroll through the origins of the series, and discuss what beyond the series itself makes Kaput Zösky so interesting. Well, at least to me, but I do think that you will feel the same as well. Plus, I may just need your help with something, so stick around. So what is Kaput Zösky? That's a great question. It's a series that follows the titular characters of Kaput and Zösky, these two dudes who travel the stars in search of planets with civilizations that they can conquer and rule over. There's just one problem though. They aren't really all that good at it. So there's your main premise for the series. We see these two try to become these evil leaders of different alien worlds and find a pretty hard time in doing so because they aren't the scary and forceful conquerors with an army and lots of firepower behind them. They're just two dudes with big egos for who they think they are and what they could realistically accomplish. Like, just look at them. Just look at their spaceship. You think these two oppositely shaped and different personality having space fellas can get anything done aside from trying to save themselves in the end? Kaput, the round and short one, is a chaotic mess, ready to jump into any situation without thinking about it first. While Zösky, the long one, is all about having a plan and keeping things chill so hopefully their mission can happen with no stress. But of course, Kaput will make it so that it won't be stress-free for him. But to be fair, they can share in the blame together. I do put Zösky at fault as well because, you know, he's a part of the conquering and all that. So where Zösky is all prim and proper and wanting to handle any situation with his smarts, Kaput is all about trying to use a show of force and often coming off as crass and ill-tempered. It's the classic opposite duo pairing that you'd find in many forms of media, which could lead to a lot of fun based on their interactions, or it could lead to too much dysfunction to the point that you'd rather not be following them as main characters anymore. So how does a show like Kaput Zösky handle it? Well, we'll get into that, but first, to understand a bit more about this show, we need to talk about and take a look into Kaput Zösky's origins.
Kaput Zösky will be back, and you'll still have that stain on your shirt.
Created in 1995, the first ever time we would see the characters of Kaput Zösky put to paper by cartoonist Louis Trondheim was within the French weekly comic magazine Le Journal de Mickey. What does that mean? Who's to really say? I don't speak French.
You just blowing from Stupid Town?
Clearly, with this weekly comic magazine having the name Mickey in it, you can tell this was mainly for comics that featured Disney characters. But there would also be the occasional stories that wouldn't feature any and be entirely their own thing. From here, Louis was offered to bring his stories to another publication, and then another, and each time he opted to keep telling stories, he did so with these two alien characters. He liked them, he found this attachment to them and the stories that could be told, leading to him eventually having enough pages of comics with Kaput Zösky that he went to a publisher, created even more stories, and voila, the standalone version of the comics were created. These would end up being a nice collection of short stories that follow the shenanigans of trying to conquer planets and not really succeeding in those plans. Now, in getting from the comics being a thing to then getting an animated TV show, Louis was already working with a producer to adapt another one of his works titled La Mouche, or translated The Fly, into animation. But this producer took notice of Kaput Zösky, and right then and there said, "Sell me that," wanting to get a cartoon in production as soon as possible, and just like that, Kaput Zösky would become a cartoon series. Technically titled Kaput Zösky, The Ultimate Obliterators, the series would bring the space-traveling duo's stories to life. life, fleshing out their personalities and what they are even doing in the first place. The series would be structured in the style of having 3 short segments that make one technical episode, so no story would ever go on for too long, and before you know it, you're off on another adventure throughout the cosmos. While you are meant to believe, based on how these two are presented on paper, as these evil and ruthless conquerors that should be feared because they are just out for blood, in reality, they're just kinda goofballs. Sure, they want to do bad things, but the longer you spend time with them, the more you see who they really are, and more specifically, who they are towards each other, as their best friend dynamic truly makes it more worthwhile to stick around. These two really do have this close friendship at the end of the day. It's really just the two of them that really have each other. Of course, they will butt heads much like any friendship would, especially if you're mainly confined within a small spacecraft together, but when it really counts, they show that they do care for one another. While Zösky is a bit more open and direct about his feelings, you will find moments where Kaput will drop his tough guy mask to show that he genuinely cares about Zösky and is there for him. It's a really sweet angle that we get to see in the show that adds a decent bit more layers to who these characters are. Like, yeah, Kaput will still pull up to your planet and immediately try firing his weapon at you, but he's also more than just a wannabe conqueror. He's a friend. Well, a friend to Zösky, that is. Probably not to you. With them being the only close person in each other's lives for one another, their bond feels real, and you can see that in how they show trust with one another and never really want to be separated. I just find that taking the little moments to see these deeper emotions come out really paints a clearer picture to who these two are, so that you as a viewer can find yourself caring about them more. And these are supposed to be the bad guys, you know? Speaking of bad guys, you probably don't want to be one. So if you want to feel good and feel like a good guy, then it's time to get you some gamer subs using my code FRINGE, to get you 10% off your purchase every time you purchase. Every time the energy drink cans come back in stock, you gotta get them. They just released them in sugar-free now.
Sugar-free now?
That's right, guacamole gamer fart, no sugar. Or you can go old school analog, still having no sugar. Of course, you got some of that chug juice right here. This is a big top tier one for me. I like this one a lot. Heck, do you need help going to bed and my 12-hour-long videos aren't doing the trick when you turn them on? Well, I got some AFK for you right here. That's some sleep support. Once again, sugar-free. So whatever tickles your fancy, go ahead, click the link down below, or just use my code FRINGE for 10% off your purchase every time you purchase. And sometimes there are extra benefits or perks to using my code FRINGE, with gamer subs having constant new drops and a bunch of holiday promotions going on. I appreciate every single one of you who does use my code. It directly helps support the channel. Get yourself something nice today for the holidays, for a friend, for your grandma. She needs to wake up. No, seriously, someone please check on her. One more time, code FRINGE at checkout, or just hit the link down below and get yourself something tasty. Thanks for listening to me real quick. Let's go ahead and get back to the video. While most episodes find themselves just being a fun adventure to go on that you could just sit back and enjoy, there were definitely moments that brought up something a bit more. Like in the segment, "Oh no, this is my planet," where we see them ending up on Zösky's homeworld, where his mom is basically the one running things, and you see how Zösky breaks down due to past traumas surrounding his life here, and with his mom. It's one of those type of moments that kind of catches you off guard, especially when it's the middle segment out of the 3 in the episode, where the first and the last segments feel like your typical episode of the show. It just really stood out to me. Sometimes the things that would stand out in some episodes would be segments that would feature really cool concepts that are fun to explore, like in the episode Space Zeros, which has Kaput and Zösky finding themselves at the control room of the universe. And if they had that power, why couldn't they just create their own planet all to themselves to be conquerors of? It just brings in a lot of interesting ideas and giving the powers of God essentially to these two to play with. Or even an episode like LK-13, where we find them crashed on a planet only filled with criminals, putting them face to face with who they are, as well as giving us a chance to see them prosper more than usual because of the skills that they do actually have. There's a lot of nice little moments like this throughout the series that do just stand out to me, making the watch through of the series a decently solid time overall. Heck, we even get a segment called The Legend of Kaput and Zösky, where things get a little meta as they end up meeting an in-universe comic creator making comics based on Kaput and Zösky, with this creator being a nod to the actual creator of the series, Louis Trondheim. Now, as far as my experience of seeing the series in the US, that being on the Nicktoons Network channel, Kaput and Zösky was weirdly censored here. Now, I say weirdly because, sure, I understand that was stuff like a pissing contest or the mentioning of adult films. Yeah, of course. Things like that here wouldn't be shown, or they'd just be cut out or something. But what I am referring to as weird is that they just never played the full series, holding off on playing a majority of them. Were they banned? Was Nicktoons just not bothered in releasing them? It's not really clear what happened. Most likely Nickelodeon got the the licensing rights to show the series on that network, but really just had them in case they needed to have something fill a time slot, which is something they would often do with the properties that they would get licensing for on that channel. It's something that I've talked about before when discussing other series that were on the Nicktoons Network channel. Now, the series originally premiered in September of 2002, but that's for Teletoon in Canada. The Nicktoons Network wouldn't start broadcasting the series until March of 2004, and like I was saying, the releasing of episodes was weird. There are unaired episodes in general when all was said and done. Technically, there are only 26 episodes, but if you go by how many segments there are, that's 78 adventures to go on with these two characters, which isn't too bad at all. There is a bit more to talk about though, something that I believe is really interesting and worth your time, as well as that also being tied to something you may be able to help out in. And yes, I am talking about some lost media.
We will be right back. If you leave, who knows what'll happen? Remember when we said Kaput Zösky would be right back? We can predict the future.
So while working on this video and trying to find and verify some information about Louis Trondheim, I ended up coming across this video here from Chiroptere, or Emily. It's a documentary that goes not only pretty in depth about the series of Kaput Zösky, but also has so much more baked into it that I can't recommend it enough. For verifying the information that I was looking for in regards to the creator of the series, she actually ended up getting the chance to interview him, but in finding that, there was so much more that Emily did in regards to, in my eyes, being the lore keeper of Kaput Zösky. And I mean that as well as beyond just the cartoon series. I don't want to spoil anything, but linked down below is her video and I implore you to give it a watch. Regardless if you are a fan of Kaput Zösky or not, the contents of this documentary are just genuinely fascinating. But there is one point that I do want to pull from it and talk about with all of you, because it would be pretty cool to see through more word of mouth if something is possible to find. Emily talks about finding a listing for an episode that she had not heard of. Season 3, Episode 9, Arid-Zona, complete with a detailed synopsis of the 3 segments that could be seen in that episode, and a thumbnail screenshot from one of those 3 segments. Now, why is this weird? Well, there already is a Season 3, Episode 9, and it's not this episode listed here. In fact, this episode, Arid-Zona, doesn't seem to exist. Now, the Season 3, Episode 9 that does actually exist is already its own bag of weirdness for many reasons that Emily goes into, and it's just this whole oddity all its own. But now there's this whole other side to the mystery, with that being, what the heck and where the heck is this missing episode? Well, the thumbnail image for it can be traced back to an earlier episode that would end up having those assets reused for one of the segments within the actual Season 3 Episode 9 that does exist, so we can kind of disregard that part. But after exhausting every research avenue she could, Emily couldn't find a trace of anything proving the existence of the Arid-Zona episode. That is, until she found an old link that listed the episode being uploaded to YouTube in 2014. But once that channel that it was on was changed up, everything beforehand was purged, including this Arid-Zona episode of the show. And all Emily is left with is a link to that video that no longer is accessible. She says that she's frustrated because it's like, right there, a possible definitive answer to the existence of this episode, but the link's dead. The file doesn't exist anymore. So I get being that frustrated, spending so much time doing everything you can to finally get somewhere, and right before you get your closure, you get closed out. So if you're asking yourself, hey, where do I fit into all of this? Well, I'll tell you how. In her video, Emily gives us a couple examples of what could happen going forward. Some avenues for retrieval. 1. Find someone who bought the episode online, meaning when it was shown listed on places like Amazon Prime or on the Google Play Store, someone may have purchased it and could possibly have access to it. 2. Find a taped copy of the broadcast, with the stipulation being if that even happened at any point in the first place. There's no proof this episode, if it truly exists, was ever aired, so this is just a potential thing. And 3, reach out to people involved in its production, to which Emily states she already has been doing this, and from who she's heard back from, they don't have any info. So this is where you may be able to help. If you have any bit of information about this, or a lead on any information, or better yet, the actual lost episode itself, please reach out to either Emily or myself. Like I said, she's the lore keeper of this series, keeping things easily accessible to find and understand about the whole series. So I just really wanted to push this search out to as many eyeballs as possible. So yeah, please let us know if you know anything or have a lead to anything or any information about this at all in regards to this episode. And please make sure that you go and check out Emily's full video. It's fantastic. I ended up reaching out to Emily and spoke with her about this, as she ended up giving us a bit more information in regards to what has happened since posting posting her documentary a few months back. Based on sources reaching out to her, it seems like there is a slight possibility that Arid-Zona could have premiered on Teletoon, but under the wrong name, since there is at least one example of an aired episode having the wrong listed episode attached to it in the TV listings. Also worth noting, but also take this with a grain of salt because it is just in the rumor status at the moment, but apparently there was a TV bumper-like promo from Teletoon for some unknown episode, but when it came to air, the other weird version of Season 3, Episode 9 would air instead. Through some more sources to understand the Nicktoons network archives, it seems to kind of be a mystery as to what really happened and what even really aired on that channel. While it looks like only some episodes aired with a lot of the series going unaired, there are some VHS recordings out there to prove this kind of wrong. And when it comes to fully verifying it and getting access to the behind-the-scenes data, it seems to be locked off from people finding out for several reasons, possibly legal, or just because it was an acquired show for the network and certain documents, well, they just don't exist anymore. For looking further into Arid-Zona, different dubs from around the world seem to not have it listed as an episode, and instead have the other Season 3 Episode 9 there. Even weirder, Google TV has a listing for an episode that has mixed together segments as well as a description that makes things more confusing to the whole thing. So yeah, see, I told you this stuff was interesting, right? Like, this is the stuff that gets me so invested in just wanting to find out the truth one way or another, whether we end up with a piece of lost media or come up empty-handed in the end because it doesn't exist. It's all just for fun at the end of the day. So behind the scenes, Emily and her sources have been doing some digging, finding out some good information about the missing episode that can really lead the case in either direction into proving its existence, as well as it possibly just being a big ol' error. They've also found more stuff about the show in general that relate back to more censored parts of episodes. What were the things that were censored and where in the world with what dub was it censored in? So maybe in the future we'll have a lot more to dig into this with Emily when it comes to Kaput Zösky, and of course, if for some reason this missing episode does come into existence, her and I will link up for a video to talk all about it, so, you know, get to it. Help us find this. Yeah, no, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. If you have any information, reach out on socials, the comment sections, whatever works best for you. Just hit up Emily or myself and hopefully we can come together to solve this mystery. Just you, me, Emily, her sources, and of course our giant dog that can kind of talk.
Stay where you are, and Kaput and Zösky will be right back. Hooray, hooray! Kaput and Zösky are here to stay.
Now, to share some final thoughts from myself in regards to Kaput and Zösky, I think what ends up really working to the benefit of the show is the fact that it feels similar to the structure of its origins. Coming from these comics with quick stories, it genuinely feels like that. A quick comic strip or small chapters from a comic book, with every chapter or series of panels just being a new small adventure with a new location and a limited roster of reoccurring characters, while we never overstay a welcome for the plots. Because of this, it makes this universe we are in for the series feel so much larger and vastly unexplored because the structure is so simplistic, and that's not me saying it or meaning it in a negative way. I genuinely think the show works well with how it's crafted. To me, since we never dwell on any place for too long, the anti-world building, or really just lack thereof, kind of ends up being the world building, if that makes sense. You'll constantly be going to new planets basically every episode, but you're never there long enough to deep dive in great detail what's going on before we're off on the next adventure. But you end up leaving with your own thoughts of what else could be out there thanks to the creative ideas of the planets and their residents themselves. It's not a perfect show, there's nothing particularly mind-blowing that demands your attention to tune in, but not every show is going to be that, nor is every show trying to do that. Kaput and Zösky simply is a simple show, and that's okay. Simple doesn't mean bad. This is a show that after an episode or two, you'll know exactly what to expect for the rest of the series. It's easy to turn on, enjoy a fun little adventure with an interesting duo of characters, have a few laughs, and sometimes you don't need more than that. I think because of the modern day we live in with how many options there are out there to watch, every show and every network or streaming service they are on are all trying to fight for your attention. Here's the next big thing. You can't miss this. You will be culturally behind if you're not consuming the latest the zeitgeist has to offer. And because of this, you are going to miss things. Some things are here today and then disappear right after because everyone has moved on. What I I'm really trying to say is that things used to feel simple. I do miss the feeling of just turning on the TV and what was on was on. So sure, sometimes I was watching the biggest things out there because of course stuff like SpongeBob or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon or Rugrats or whatever was really popular, and whatever was really popular would be on more than it wouldn't. But sometimes you would find something new, something smaller, something you may only see once or a couple of times even, but sometimes those are what could be the most memorable. When I started making videos, sure, of course I was going to talk about more popular pieces of media because hey, I grew up with them too. But from the start of Jordan Fringe, I have found joy in looking into the pocket of my brain that houses these nostalgia neurons for small memories of shows that make me say, wait, remember? So whether it be something like a Kappa Mikey that I remember a decent bit of, or something like a Kaput Zösky that all I somewhat remembered going into it is the base concept and the character designs, I personally have so much fun getting to feel like I am reliving something that feels so lost in time today, and I am grateful to share these thoughts and feelings with all of you, and vice versa. I love getting to hear all of you express your likes or dislikes or however you feel about these different shows that we discuss. Look, you found me at a very nostalgic time in my life. Well, technically I'm always very nostalgic, but I don't want my message to get lost in the sauce and meaning that things were better back in my day, blah blah blah, you know? What I am really saying is that when looking towards the future, when living in the present, I am so thankful that we have access to easily seek out the things that we never gave the chance to. So while there is some level of nostalgic tied to all of this, the memories I am forging now are for today. The feelings that I am feeling now are for today. So I look forward to exploring the things from the past that are now new to me today. Kaput Zösky is a small show that has a lot of fun packed into it. The concept of us following around two technically bad guys who want to become civilization conquerors but constantly struggle at every turn is interesting because they have charm. They have good chemistry with each other. And if that seems weird to say, think of something like, I don't know, Ed, Ed and Eddie, right? Technically, those three, but let's be honest, it's really mainly Eddie pulling the strings, are always just trying to pull off scams to make a quick quarter to go and buy candy. They aren't the good guys, right? But they have this charm to them. They have a good relationship with each other most of the time. So there's this enjoyment of watching them fail. Or if you're on the reverse side of viewing characters like this, wanting to see if they'll ever get away with something for once. That's how Kaput and Zösky as characters feel to me. Personally, I don't care if they succeed in one of their plans or constantly fail at them. I just enjoy the time I spent on the adventure with them. It's like the journey's more important than the destination type of thing, you know? Did you ever get the chance to check out Kaput and Zösky? Were you a fan of it? Do you have information leading to the whereabouts of this missing episode? Let me know all of that and more in the comments down below. Thank you to my Patreon members who help support these videos getting made. It means the world to me and I appreciate you all so much. Consider becoming a member for $5 a month to help support these videos getting made and getting access to some fun extras, as well as being involved more directly in the video topics themselves. And of course, thank you all in general for watching. Before you go, make sure to leave a like on this video and to subscribe for more videos like this coming soon, but until then, I've been Jordan Fringe. Later.